Speaking for Life and praying that not only does this fight continue, but more action to bring the end of abortion while we continue to do the life-affirming work and affirming those who are facing unplanned pregnancies and loving them and providing for them so that they understand that they have families, that their child is a life.
Folks, we're going to get started in a few minutes. We're going to bring a photographer up, and if you can all put up your signs so we can get a great picture of you all. Also, if you're on the edges, there is room to the right of me. You guys can move in here so you can see the stage. But it's great to see all of you. Keep those signs up as we get some of these photos. Wow, this is an amazing crowd today. Praise God. Thank you all for making the trek to Harrisburg. You're here for the right reason. Stand for life. Thank you. We'll be starting in just a few minutes. Thank you.
Thankfully, though, we have strong pro-life leaders in our Pennsylvania General Assembly, many of them gathered here behind us. A majority, that's why the abortion industry is going to the courts, because they know they can't get it past these people. These are forward-thinking, proactive lawmakers, and they have already taken first steps with the Life Amendment to stop court-ordered taxpayer funding of abortion and to maintain the opportunity to pass laws to protect women and babies from the false promises of the abortion industry.
Adults who came alongside my very young mother and saw and a well on the side of the house. Again, we were so poor we couldn't afford the other O. But never did anyone look at me and call me a victim. Never did anyone look at me and said, your life does not matter. I had nothing to do with how I was conceived. I took no part in how I was conceived. I have never once glorified that my mother was raped. I have never glorified how I was conceived. And yet, there I was. There I was, a human being. And from me has come two of the most beautiful little children. My husband and I have created a wonderful home. My babies will be a blessing to our country when we release them. I spent 10 years, I went on to spend 10 years in the U.S. military, where I was accepted into officer candidate school. I went on to have multiple degrees. I went on to work in corporate America, the financial industry, a professor of corporate finance. I've had many careers in my life. I ran in one of the most competitive races for U.S. Senate and almost won until they lied on me. And all of that, because someone looked at something that was very ugly. I've never glorified it. But someone looked at my young mother and saw what was growing in her womb and said, we love her. We're going to raise her. And I'm grateful to that. I am so grateful. And guess what? I called my grandparents a net. They came alongside my mother and they caught her. And not only did they catch my mother, they caught me. You are the net. You are the net. This cannot be done without you. So I'm so grateful to people like you who see value in the lives of people like me. And you're willing to stand up and be a voice for the voiceless and to fight for some of the most innocent people on our planet. We're letting crooks out of prisons, but we're murdering our babies in the womb. That makes no sense at all. So I'm grateful for you. Continue doing it. Do not be ashamed. Lean forward. We have the better story. We are on the right side of history. Thank you.
What do you think of all these attacks on the pro-life pregnancy centers all over the country?
It's appalling to me. You know, our Department of Justice and the FBI at the federal level needs to do something about it. We see them protecting things that are in their agenda or things they like. But when it comes to our side, they don't want to call a terrorist attack. It's unacceptable to me. We need to have equal justice before the law. That's at the Supreme Court. And a lot of people in America, including myself, don't see it.
What about people like Senator Elizabeth Warren saying that the crisis pregnancy centers are dangerous, or Mazie Hirono saying that a call to action, talking about how dangerous these pregnancy centers are?
I'm calling on those politicians to reduce that awful rhetoric. What's dangerous about saving a baby's life? What's dangerous about helping a mom in crisis, to overcome a dark time? The danger is from the rhetoric of these career politicians who need to keep their mouths shut when it comes to these issues here and bring the tone down. It's because of them that it's not safe in America. It's because of them that our police officers are at risk. So it's time to bring it down.
Why do you think the Department of Justice hasn't made any arrests that we know of in all of these vandalisms and arsons and attacks on Catholic churches and pro-life centers after Roe?
Yeah, we've clearly seen the Department of Justice has become weaponized. Look what they did to Donald Trump. And they become politicized because exactly what you said. If it was a fair and balanced, equal before the law, they'd go after these criminals that are attacking pro-life centers and emergency pregnancy centers, but they're not. So that tells me we're in a dark way. We need a serious change. We've seen a lot of good or bad that governors can do. We've seen the great work of Florida under Governor DeSantis, and we've seen the horrific work of Tom Wolf here. So I'm in this race here to win it on 8 November, but it's up to the people to choose. And because of that decision, if you read the Supreme Court decision in June that came out about Roe v. Wade, it says in the 3rd paragraph, it's now up to the people and the people's representatives to decide on the issue of life and abortion. So Pennsylvania, we're at a crossroads. We have Josh Shapiro, a radical who wants to kill the babies up until birth, extremely radical, and then you have a defender of life. And so let's choose wisely on 8 November.
Why do you think that people like Shapiro and, I mean, Fetterman said that he wouldn't name a single abortion restriction? Why won't they?
They're so beholden to this radical vision of America by Margaret Sanger. Sanger wanted to use abortion as eugenics to remove Italians, African Americans, Latinos, anyone that didn't look like her. And that's somebody celebrated by Joe Biden, somebody celebrated and honored by my opponent Shapiro, somebody that Hillary Clinton considered a mentor. I mean, are you kidding me? And let me lay it out for you. So my opponent supports abortion as it is right now in Pennsylvania. About 70% of the abortion clinics are in minority neighborhoods. Now, the African American and the Latino population make up less than 20% of our state population, about 18%. But what's not talked about, this eugenics, it's about half of our abortions, over half of our abortions in Pennsylvania are coming from that small part of our population. Under Mastriano, we're going to defend life because life matters.
Well, thank you so much. This was a really interesting conversation. Appreciate your time.